and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Franc Palaia, the hardest working artist in the Hudson Valley. Frank, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Norm. Thanks for inviting me. And also, that title you always give me,
The moniker
goes to you, too.
No, not me. I take a lot of naps. But you, I mean, all the time. And I suspect you're probably pretty good at self-promotion and stuff. And you send things out, and there's always a gajillion things going on with you. And it seems that you're always hustling. I mean, you hustled to get on this show. You're like, hey, I got to, you should put me on. I got events coming up. And that seems to be how you run your business. I'm a little bit envious.
Well, I try to be, I know hustle has a negative connotation, but, when you're an artist, if you don't have a gallery, if you don't have a sponsor or an agent or something, who's going to promote you? The artist has to promote themselves.
Right.
That's part of being an artist. There's that saying with artists, when you're promoting, you feel guilty because you're not making art. And then when you're making art, you feel guilty that you're not promoting. So it's kind of like...
That's funny. I don't think I ever heard that.
Really?
But do you ever feel guilty, really, that you're not doing the other?
Sometimes a little bit, if I go overboard one way or the other. But it's just, especially lately with all the social media, it's like it's got such a natural, easier thing to do than from years ago when there was just,
still takes up plenty of time. Posting things on social media and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so what's on your easel, so to speak, right now? What are you creating?
Well, I'm not making art lately. I made so much artwork during COVID. I mean, I have like tons of work. So I'm trying to get it out there little by little, And just luckily I'm in, some shows here and there, and so I'm getting to show the work that I did in the last few years. I'm not the person who works every day, making art. I work in spurts. Like I'll do a ton of work within a few months, and then I'll sort of cool it, and then I just sort of do more promoting.
That sounds healthy.
Yeah, it
takes some time to recharge from each.
Yeah, and it's a balance, because you can't do one and not the other. You have to do both, I think.
Yeah. And were you ever the artist that worked every day, 9 to 5?
No. Nope. Plus, I have another thing. Because I do so many things, it's like it's never a dull moment. Like today I'm playing drums someplace, and tomorrow I'm painting a mural, and the next day I'm working in the studio. And,
that sounds perfect.
It's like almost like a burden that I like, but I like to do all these things.
And do you, are you ADHD at all?
No.
It's a natural question when you're all over the lot like that.
No, but because when I'm doing one thing, I am pretty focused.
That's good.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, I just ended up having like 5 careers all simultaneously.
Which sounds great.
Yeah, but it's not easy,
So it's not easy, but you're never bored, I'm guessing.
No, and I like the challenge, actually,
Now, you mentioned music. You have a band, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a loose band. We sort of go under the name Potown Beats, and it's basically just 2 people. My friend Alvin on keyboards, and I'm on percussion.
Okay.
But then sometimes another musician will sit in, or or whatever. But it's like if I hear, hey, does anybody play music? I just raise my hand. And, yeah, sure, we can do it. If someone asks me if I could do something, I just say yes, and then I end up teaching myself how to do it. Yeah.
That's great. It sounds a little ADHD, that you never want to be bored. You never want to be doing the same
I like
things you know about.
You only go around once. I figured, why not just do as much as you can while you're on the planet? To me, it's like you're living in a house, and it's like living in one room.
Right.
Why not, live in the whole house? Or traveling is like that. If you don't travel, it's like being in one room your whole life. You've got a whole house to
I love that. I love that analogy. So the band is called the Potown Beats.
Yeah.
Do you have a special connection with Poughkeepsie? I know you live in Rhinebeck now.
Well, yeah, I used to live in Poughkeepsie, so I have a lot of friends there, and I'm still very active there. We go under the name Ethereal Funk. It's because
the descriptor of what you'll do.
Like people ask me what kind of music you make, and that's what I came up with, because the keyboard guy is kind of ethereal and I'm the funk. So it seems like a perfect balance. We had fun. We played live at in the Red Hook, the KZE radio station.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What fun!
Yeah, it was fun. Every Wednesday they have a local band that plays live, so we played a couple of songs.
And so if people listening now want to stop listening to this and go listen to the music, they can find you on YouTube?
Yes, but under my friend Alvin's name. I don't really post that much. There's a little bit of music on my website. It's a soundtrack that I did I made a drone video of my murals, because I have about 8 murals in Poughkeepsie. So my friend who has a drone, and the murals are only a few blocks apart. So I said, well, why don't you just shoot your drone, do an aerial shot, come down and, pan the murals, and then go to the next mural. So I have a 5-minute drone video of my murals, and I did the soundtrack.
And somebody would find that on YouTube?
On my website.
On your website?
Yeah.
Do you do YouTube much?
A little bit, not too much. I tend to go just with Facebook, a little bit of Instagram, and lots of email.
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of old school.
That's old school, except for the drone shots.
Yeah.
Now, you said how many murals in Poughkeepsie? 5?
About 8.
8.
Yeah.
And where are they all? I'm familiar with the one. They painted like storefronts.
Yeah.
In a vacant lot.
A couple of them are like storefronts. And there's one in Little Italy, and there's one, the mayor's house, in front of his house, near the Children's Museum, down near the river. Then there's one in Red Oaks Mills. It's like a little further out. I have one in Hyde Park, one in Kingston. About 10, I guess, 10 outdoor murals. I have a lot of indoor murals too.
Right. Yeah, I know the one in Hyde Park. It's great. It's historic Hyde Park.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful composition, getting all of these highlights into this mural on that one wall.
Yeah, it's Hyde Park's greatest hits.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it's only half the greatest hits. I couldn't fit everything. Hyde Park is amazing, how much great stuff there is. I couldn't fit everything in, and the plan was to put half of the sights and things in that mural, and then the next year to paint the other side of that building, because there's another wall on the other side, same size, and put the other stuff, the other Hyde Park history in the other one. But the owner kind of pooped out. He promised I could do the other one, but he hasn't come up with the goods yet. So
the goods, meaning the money?
Well, yeah, he's the owner of that. The person who sponsored that Hyde Park mural owns the Ever Ready Diner.
Okay.
And they own a lot of restaurants and buildings, and they own that strip mall. And so it took me a year and a half to track them down and convince them that it was a good idea to paint the mural. Finally, they said yes, and then it was a big hit. It's a big hit ever since.
It's great. It's an amazing mural.
Thank you.
But so to track them down, convince them that they should have a mural there, and that they should pay you to do it.
Yeah. I'm not going to do it for free. It's a lot of work.
Hats off to you. I always assumed like the Hyde Park Chamber of Commerce or somebody commissioned that.
Yeah, you would think.
The Hyde Park Greatest Hits.
No. A lot of the murals that I do are private, and I must say it's easier that way. Grants take forever, and it's really not very much, a couple of $1,000 or $1,000.
And do you ever apply to the O Positive Festival over there?
Yeah, I have, but they haven't selected me for some reason. I don't know why.
They seem to have a particular taste in the murals they select.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen all of your murals, but
Yeah.
like the Hyde Park thing doesn't seem to be that taste.
No, yeah, and most of the other ones are done with spray paint. Although I don't really use spray paint, but some of them are done with the brush. So I don't know.
And you use a brush primarily?
Yeah, mostly.
In acrylic paint?
It depends on the wall. I use usually a combination of house paint, sign paint, and acrylic paint. It depends on the wall. Some paints stick better on certain materials. So.
And then when you're done, do you put a coat of varnish on there or some UV protection?
Yeah. Yes, I usually coat them with two coats of different things. One is aquathane, which prevents them from fading, and that really works. And then the other coating is called Graffiti Guard, and it's basically it's pure lacquer, and it's thick. It's like honey, and you roll it on, and then once it dries, it's almost 1/8 of an inch thick.
So when I go to your mural and tag my name on it,
You can wash it off with
wash it right off.
Yeah.
That's
and it really
amazing.
works,
I
too.
never heard of that either.
Yeah, Graffiti Guard. In fact, my old Main Street mural in Poughkeepsie is 20 years old, and 21 years old, and it looks pretty close to what it looked like 21 years ago because I gave it those two coats.
Right.
I had Graffiti Guard and the other.
All right, now let's go back to like 1979 or so, which I'm guessing it was about when you moved to New York City or started doing a lot of work in New York City.
Well, I never really lived in New York, although I was there most of the time. I used to live in Jersey City for many years, and I would just pop in and out because it's only like 10 minutes.
And were you ever doing graffiti?
No, I see. That's another thing. I don't really do graffiti. I incorporate it and I photograph it. I document it.
You were friends with graffiti artists, Hamilton, Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Yes. Because I was showing in the East Village right from the beginning in the early 80s to the mid 80s. And I met all those graffiti artists, and I used to collaborate with them because I've been making these kind of simulated urban walls for years, for 40 years. And so I thought of the idea of, well, why don't these graffiti artists paint on my walls, and it would make their tag look more realistic because my walls look really realistic, and it would make my wall look more realistic because they were starting to paint their tags on canvas, and the canvas just doesn't, it's a square. And
It's such a solid idea.
Yeah, so that's how I almost collaborated with Basquiat. I asked him to collaborate. He wanted to do it, but his dealer at the time, Mary Boone, told him, no, you're not a graffiti artist anymore. You can't do that. So that's how I ended up getting a commission by Basquiat, believe it or not.
That's great. Now, he commissioned you to do a painting?
Well,
one of your walls?
I brought a wall to his studio, and he was ready to do...
Take time out for a second.
Yeah.
Describe what these walls are for listeners.
So I fabricate these simulated urban walls. I use my photography as drawings in a way. I document walls, billboards, murals, street art, graffiti. Then I kind of digest it all. I reimagine it, and I change it around, and then I pick my favorite images, wall images, and then I actually fabricate them. And I use a base of polystyrene, which is styrofoam, big sheets of it. And I either paint.
So the base is a block of polystyrene, styrofoam?
They're from 2 inches thick to about 10 inches thick.
And then are they just square?
Well, they start out rectangular, usually 4 by 8 feet, but then I can make them bigger, smaller, thicker.
Because the ones I saw seemed like they were walls that had been like jackhammered out of a wall with rough edges.
Exactly. Thank you very much. That's what I want them to look like. But everything about my work is kind of the opposite. They look real, but they're completely fake. They look heavy.
They're amazing. They look so real and so heavy.
They look heavy, but they're actually feather light. They weigh maybe 5 pounds.
Right.
And then they look old, but they're brand new. So everything is kind of the opposite. So anyway, Basquiat saw a show that I had of these wall pieces in Soho. This is 40 years ago. And he liked them, and the gallery owner told me, Frank, Basquiat was in here the other day. He really likes your work. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I was already collaborating with the other graffiti artists. So I said, well, why don't I'll give him one of my walls. He can do his thing on my wall, and it'll be a great piece. So I called him, and he said, yeah, bring something over. I brought a piece over. And I came back about a month later, and he didn't do anything. Because Mary Boone told him, no, you can't do that.
Jeez, Mary Boone.
So I guess he felt bad about it. So he said, okay, Frank, I'll tell you what. Why don't you do a couple of paintings for me? I said, okay, well, what do you want me to paint? So his studio was an absolute disaster. It was literally, I'm not exaggerating, this deep in junk and litter all over the floor and everything. So he bends over, picks up 2 pieces of litter, and he goes, here, paint these. One was a parking stub from a parking garage, and the other one was a flattened out toothpaste box. So he says, yeah, why don't you, go ahead, paint those. How much you want? So I'm thinking, gee, I don't know. While I was there, the phone rang, and Warhol was on the phone. He wanted to go play racquetball.
Oh, jeez.
So while he's talking, I'm looking at the mess on the floor, and I found there was checks mixed in with the garbage made out to Basquiat. One was $8,000, one was $10,000. This is 40 years ago, so that's like $40,000 and $30,000. So he gets off the phone with Warhol, and I say, here, I give him the check. I say, you might want these. He goes, okay, throws them on the table. Anyway, he says, so how much you want? So I'm thinking, I don't know.
I'll take one of those checks, please.
He wanted to pay me with a Keith Haring painting. And I should have taken it, but I didn't. It was just a little kind of terrible little thing. But anyway, and Keith Haring wasn't the big deal that he is now. He was just
So what year are we talking about here?
1982.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, make a long story short, so I told him 500 each. I remember this is 40 years ago, so that was like 1,500.
Yeah.
For a little thing this big. That would take me an hour to paint. So he says, okay, reaches into his ripped up jeans, pulls out 5 crisp $100 bills, and he fans them out like playing cards. He goes, here's a deposit. And when you finish, come back, I'll give you the rest. Okay. So I went home, I painted them, I brought them back to a different...
What did you paint on them?
I painted those little scrappy things that he gave me to paint.
No, but what did you paint on them?
I used paint on metal. I used metal for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, so you painted a copy of the toothpaste tube.
Right. Right.
I see.
That was the image that he wanted me to paint. I didn't ask him why.
I imagine he wanted you to paint on the toothpaste tube.
Oh, no. It was just paint this.
Yeah.
I don't, he was such a kind of a, it's hard to describe him. He was kind of a wild kid. He was like 22, But anyway, so I did the paintings. I bring him back. He had a better studio when I went back because Warhol gave him a bigger studio.
Nice.
And so I went to the other studio, gave him the paintings, and paid me the rest, and that was it. So that's my Basquiat story.
That's great. That's what a fabulous story.
Yeah, I have pictures in a catalog I can show you of the paintings.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that in a catalog. Now you have a bunch of catalogs and a couple of books that you've done.
Yeah.
So in addition to everything else, a writer, drone operator, and
no, I didn't make the drone. I
actor
just came up with the idea.
I see. You're also a writer, and you have at least one book I know of, the Hambleton book.
Yeah, it's not a lot of text in it. It's just the story of how I met him and how I ended up documenting his Shadow series, which to this day, 40 years later, they're as popular as ever. Because I think
there's a real appreciation for that era, and especially that era in New York City.
And also, just by coincidence, I met him, Hambleton, at a party in New Jersey when he had just come to New York. He's Canadian, so he was new to New York. He didn't know anybody. He's actually quite shy and timid, and he was sort of a wallflower at this party. So
That's
I went
funny.
over and gravitated to him.
Wallflower.
He was. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, wallflower, right. So I started talking to him. I was kind of curious. He was kind of an intriguing guy, and he told me what he was going to do, which was kind of surprising because he was very secretive. He said he's going to paint black shadows all over New York.
You don't have to whisper into the microphone.
Okay. No, I'm mimicking him.
Yeah.
That's how he told me, because he had a very soft voice.
So
But
he's going
anyway.
to paint black shadows all over
Of
New
figures.
York?
Black figure shadows. He was going to do that. And so, when I heard that, a little voice in the back of my head said, Frank, that's a really great idea. Maybe you should photograph them. Because I was already photographing walls and, street art and stuff. So I asked him, I said, do you mind if I photo document your shadows? Oh, you go, okay, sure, go ahead. So he would call me every week or so to tell me where he did them. So, because I wanted to go photograph them when they were nice and clean and black and pure.
Right.
There's a beautiful purity of the shadows if you've seen them.
Yeah, right. I lived in New York City at that point in time.
Yeah,
You'd
you
go
saw.
around a corner and you'd
Yeah.
see one, and it was just a sloppy, thrown up
Yeah.
splotch of black paint that looked like a person,
Yeah.
a man, like standing in the corner or
Right.
taking a pee in the corner or smoking a cigarette or whatever.
Right,
and often they were scary. They were jarring.
Yeah, that was the idea. It was actually many years later. I was thinking about this series. I think it had two purposes. One was to scare everybody and get their attention.
Right.
And number two was they were all him.
Oh,
They were actually all him. Because he's saying to the art world in New York, which is the most important city for art, contemporary art, hey, I'm here, I'm there, I'm over there, I'm over here. That's
I'm a force.
I didn't think of it right away, but that's what I think he was thinking.
Wow.
And it really worked because, everybody, he was instantly famous in a few months. He was all over
Right.
every magazine, People magazine, Life magazine, the whole thing. So, but for me, it was really a lucky break because I was the first one to photograph them, systematically photograph them. People took pictures here and there, but I actually went on purpose. I would get maybe 10 or 12 a day, and then I have like 120 of these shadow
Did
photos.
you ever go out with him while he was
No, he
slapping
never
these up?
did that. He always went by himself at night, because
What kind of black paint did he use?
just black latex, flat black.
Flat, yeah.
Because that's the beauty of it. It's flat. He would just go out with a little can and a little brush. He was dressed all in black. It took him only, I actually timed it. I saw a video of a rare video of him painting one, and it took 30 seconds.
Amazing.
Literally 30 seconds to do one figure. So he could knock out, 10 or 20 in a night, But so anyway, I was the first to photograph them and the first person to put them in a book.
So nice. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for bringing this book in. I wish everybody could see it. It's called Nightlife, Shadow Paintings by Richard Hambleton, photographs by Franc Palaia. And I'm guessing the writing in here is mostly yours as well.
Well, there's a little introduction background that I wrote in the beginning, just so you understand the context of
1981 to 1989. And
Yeah.
if you lived in New York during that era, chances are, especially downtown, chances are you saw these things.
Yeah.
And at one point, rounded a corner, were a little bit freaked out for a split second.
And that was the idea. He was very systematic and strategic where he
Right.
put them. And he only did them in 3 neighborhoods in the beginning, but then later on he did them all over the world. The first ones, the ones that are in this book, was just Soho, Tribeca, and East Village. That's it.
Right.
But there were hundreds of them there.
I really remember the Soho and East Village ones.
Yeah,
So if you're listening at home, it's Richard Hambleton, Hambleton.
right.
And have somehow become a real Richard Hambleton expert and booster. You just had a show. You've had a couple of shows of your photos of his work.
Yeah, in fact, a couple of years ago, I had a two-person show with Richard. He's dead now. He died in 2017. So it was his paintings and my photographs at the Saatchi Museum, which was really great.
Oh, nice. Over there in London?
In London, yeah.
Wow, what a blast.
But unfortunately, I couldn't go. I didn't go because of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah. So I kind of missed out on that.
Yeah.
But I did okay. I sold some photos.
Well, I'm sorry you couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So you hung out with all these graffiti people, but you didn't do graffiti yourself.
No, I'm personally not really. I'm sort of a historian in a way, a historian documenter. But then I interpret it and then I make my own artwork out of what I see and photograph.
Yeah. Now, and on these big pieces that you're doing on the styrofoam that look like, chunks of walls, there's almost always graffiti. And you started to say those are from pictures you took.
Right.
So you're not making up your own graffiti and stuff?
Not so much, because there's already so much out there. I travel a lot. I have photos of London, Paris, Rome, Naples, New York, Philadelphia, L.A., Cuba, Havana, everywhere. Wherever I go, I always document the walls. Walls are really they reflect the country. Like you can sort of get a sense of what the country's like by looking at what's on the walls. I have a saying that walls are the drop cloths of society. Like whatever's happening in the country, you can see it. Like if you're in a country and the walls are spotless, clean, you're probably in a fascist country.
I don't know if I've been in that country.
Well, Singapore is like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But if you're in a country where the walls are just covered with all kinds of stuff, posters, graffiti, everything, street art, you're probably in a liberal democracy.
Right.
It's just that saying, the writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So that's basically it.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just digress here. You brought a cocktail for us to enjoy.
Yes.
Is the tradition here?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. What did you bring in?
Okay.
Looks yummy.
All right. A backstory about this. So I had a solo show last November in France, in Cassis, France, which is a beautiful little seaside town right on the Mediterranean, about half hour from Marseille. And just by coincidence, this town, Cassis, is famous for this particular drink, and it's called crème de cassis.
Huh.
And it's a liqueur made from black currants.
Yum.
Yeah, and then the gallery owner gave me this as because I asked him about it, and he had this ready for me to take home. So,
and what did you show in this gallery in Cassis?
I had a solo show of my Hamilton shadow photos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Because the owner there is a big fan of Hamilton, and he bought this book online, and then I was communicating with him, and he has a gallery, and I said, well, would you like to sell my book in your gallery? He goes, sure. Maybe some photos too, and it kind of blew up into a solo show.
That's great.
Yeah. So I went there for 2 weeks. It was just so much fun.
But that's what I'm talking about with you as an artist in the business end. And I don't think hustling has a bad end to it, but you're always out there trying to make things happen for yourself.
Yeah.
And there you go. Hats off to you.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, I figure, who can talk better about your work than the artist?
It's true. Lots of artists don't like talking about their work, though. And many who do don't like going out and knocking on doors, which is in effect what you were doing with this dealer in Cassis. Anyway, you brought a bottle of Cassis.
Yes. So, okay. So I will. So now it's a very, it's kind of sweet, and it's actually very strong. It's, I think, 15-20% alcohol. So,
okay.
So you only need a little bit. So I have.
Well, you might only need a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. So,
and you brought a shot glass. He's measuring it out.
Yeah. Well.
Into the glasses.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's really delicious. Sorry, I only brought 2 glasses, guys.
These two don't drink.
No, they don't.
The engineers don't drink when they're on the job. Wow.
Yeah. And then you can either use champagne or white wine, like or Prosecco. But I just brought some club soda. But
I see.
it does the same thing. But sorry about
Sure. It's just the same as champagne. Just a splash for me, please. That looks so good.
And lemon too. Yeah.
Is there a name for this drink?
Well, yes, it's actually called Kir, K-I-R.
Oh.
It's named after the person who kind of invented it. Yeah. But most people call it creme de cassis because the town is it's the most famous thing about the town is this drink. So,
and your art, which I assume some of it's still there.
Yes.
Well, cheers, Franc Palaia. Thank you so much for
Saluta.
bringing this in. It looks delicious.
Oh, I didn't stir it.
Yum. That really is super yummy. I'm going to have another sip.
There. Now you go. There you go.
So, were you raised around New York City?
Oh, I'm from New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey.
Whereabouts?
Aren't you from New Jersey?
I lived there for a spell, but
okay.
we got out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. No, I grew up in Long Branch, New Jersey, which is a nice little town right on the ocean. I grew up a block from the ocean, and it was a nice place to grow up, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, I was a beachcomber. I'd always be walking every day, summer and winter, not just the summer. Beach, collecting shells and rocks. And
Did you ever have a metal detector?
No, I didn't go that far.
Totally see that. I think that's your future.
I came close, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't go that far. But anyway, so in fact, that's how I came across. I started to appreciate the textures of nature. The roughness and the elements and things would get worn down. I kind of like the way things looked when they got worn down, and because that's how my artwork looks now. It looks worn down and aged. And one day I'm walking, and a big piece of styrofoam hit me in the leg, and then the light bulb went off over my head. I said, styrofoam. That's what I need for my work. Because I was using canvas. I was making these kind of cave paintings and textured wall paintings on canvas, but they were square and rectangular. So the surface was beautifully textured, but then you have the straight edge, and it kind of ruined the effect. So I couldn't think of a material to kind of continue that like all the way around, so the whole thing looks realistic. But the styrofoam was the answer.
I love that hitting the leg, a light bulb. And so this is 75, 78 when...
Actually, about right. Yeah, 75. I started making the first little... They started really small, this big.
And you said cave paintings. Were you... So
yeah.
What was that?
In graduate school in the early 70s, I was just fascinated. I saw...
My God, how old are you?
I'm older than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, older than you, I think. But anyway...
but you look probably younger than I do.
Maybe. Well...
So anyway, in grad school...
So graduate school, yeah, I was totally fascinated with cave painters. Because I was so impressed with what they did with, in 40,000 years ago.
Okay.
To paint these beautiful...
Like in Lascaux and those sort of...
to paint these perfectly contoured animals.
Gotcha.
Without the concept of... There was no concept of art or even language. They were just probably grunting, and hand signs. And they made these beautiful paintings. I'm thinking, wow, that's impressive. So I tried to kind of simulate that kind of earthy feeling, so I started making these very textured paintings, but they were again on these square canvases, and I just didn't like that squareness compared to the surface. So that's why the styrofoam was such a perfect solution to that problem.
So it's going on 50 years of you painting on styrofoam.
45, yeah.
47,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I've been around the block a couple of times. Yeah.
And it's amazing that you've stuck with that. And how about a plug? If people wanted to come see your studio and see your styrofoam creations, which I love, how could they do that?
Well, they can call me up or email me, and I don't know if I want to give my address.
Well, what's your website? What's your URL?
Well, it's just my name, Franc Palaia. .com.
And everybody can spell Palaia.
Yeah.
And everybody can spell Frank correctly, can't they?
Well, not mine.
Yeah. Why don't you spell out your URL for us?
Yeah, I spell Frank with a C, Franc, and Palaia is Palaia.
And .com is just .com.
Yeah. Lots of vowels.
And so if they go there, there's a contact button and a phone number and probably a bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm. My 13-page resume. It really is on there.
The whole 13-page resume is on there somewhere?
Why not?
I only saw the 2-page executive summary.
Well, I have a 1-page.
Which is like 6-point type, and it's 2 packed pages. And one of the things on there, I mean, there's so much amazing stuff on there, is that you're in Who's Who in American art, which is awesome. But here's the thing that kills me. The U.S.'s largest mural, the largest mural in the United States, the Columbus Drive mural in Jersey City.
Yeah. That's
kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't even a planned thing. It just sort of happened. Because, so in Jersey City, I was, me and a few other artists, we got together and formed this group called Pro Arts. And it's actually still going on now, 20-something years later. We wanted to paint murals in Jersey City because there's really nothing there but lots of buildings with ugly blank walls. So we came up with this design, actually 5 designs or 5 artists. We each had one design. We made maquettes of each one, and then we put them out on view so the public could see them. And people voted which one they liked best. And was there sort of a sponsoring governmental body for all this? The whole project took 3 years. We fundraised for the whole time. We raised, this is an amazing number. I don't know how we did it, but we raised $225,000. Oh my God. Yeah, because the wall was actually 10 buildings in a row. It was a city block right downtown Jersey City, in the ugliest part of Jersey City. In those days, this is 1997, there was a lot of ugly blocks. It's a lot nicer now. But so, so we had to raise a lot of money because it's a huge mural and there are several artists involved. So, and by the way, today's money, that's like almost $1 million. Yeah. I can't imagine raising $1 million now for a mural, but we did it. So, and we got the money from local grants, state funding, city funding, federal funds, donations, corporate funding, etc. So we make a long story short, we noticed that all the 5 designs got the same amount of votes. We couldn't decide which one. So I came up with the idea, why don't we take the best parts of the 5, make a kind of collage, one collage design, and see how that goes. So we did that. We showed it to the mayor, and he loved it. So we went with that. Again, it's sort of like the Hyde Park mural. It was like Jersey City's greatest hits. Right. And it ended up being 350 feet long. My goodness. And 60 feet high. And how, geez. Yeah. So you have scaffolding or cherry pickers or whatever? Yeah, the city let us use their biggest cherry picker that went 60 feet, and I actually used that. And then we had 3 big scissor lifts and another boom lift going. It took 6 months to paint. All 5 of you painting? Well, no, we had to hire more people. We actually got 2 or 3 more artists, professional artists. And painting like 5 days a week? Yeah. Weather permitting? For 6 months. Wow. Yeah, and then we had 8 college art students as assistants. So it was more like 15, 16 people. And is that mural still there? Well, this is 26 years ago. It's there's a few little sections left, but most of it has been kind of either painted over. A couple of the buildings actually collapsed. Right. That's the life of. That's a bummer, but you've got plenty of photos, hopefully. Oh yeah, and we didn't really realize that it was the biggest mural in the country until other people told us, because they were so excited about it. They did research and they said, "Yeah, Frank, it's the biggest mural in the U.S." I know. Okay, we didn't. I love that. But it's been in movies. It's been in on TV shows. They've used it for background and so forth.
And so it was on city property or somebody else's property?
It was a city property, yeah.
And so then at some point the city said, okay, go up. You can paint over parts of it. How did you feel about that?
Well, they never asked us. They just sort of do it.
Yeah. They gave somebody permission to paint over it.
Yeah. Well, it was already quite faded by this time. And it just sort of happened little by little. It didn't happen all at once, like all of a sudden it's painted over.
Right.
In
like
fact,
that building in Queens. What was it, 5 Points?
Oh, yeah, near PS1. Yeah, that was a big to-do. But somehow they compromised, and I don't remember what. I think they photographed it and then made big prints or something. I don't know, to save it. So I don't know. But no, yeah, that was the biggest mural. And then I moved to Poughkeepsie like right after I did that, and then I put my experience to good use because I painted the old Main Street mural, which is also quite big. It's 130 feet by 20 feet high.
Huh.
And that I did myself. And that took...
130 feet by 20 feet.
Yeah.
So how long did that take to do?
It took me 2 months.
Right.
5 days a week. But I could only paint half a day each day because the sun would come around and it would get too hot and too bright.
Right.
It would reflect, and I couldn't paint. So I used to paint from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. I could have done, if I didn't have to stop painting, I could have done it in a month, but...
right.
But yeah, that's all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick just one of your forms of expression, artistic expression, what would you do? Which ones
you
do
mean
you like
which
best?
medium?
Yeah.
Photography, painting, sculpture. Okay.
Yeah. Keep going. I read the resume.
Yeah,
There's a lot more.
Yeah. I curate too. But anyway, let's see. Well, I would say that it would have to be mural painting, actually. And this is the reason why. You make art, you make a photograph, a painting, a sculpture, you have a show in a gallery, maybe a couple of hundred people see it. You have a show in a museum, maybe a couple of thousand people see it, And that's it. It sort of disappears. But if you paint a mural, outdoor mural, it's actually part of the real world, like
right.
physically part of the real world. And it's out there 24/7 for years and years. Like the Poughkeepsie mural is 20 years old. So guess how many millions of people saw that mural? I mean, compared to a painting in a gallery,
right?
You can't ask for anything better. It's like the best thing you can do as an artist, right?
When you're working outdoors, you get all that exposure.
Yeah.
And you have murals coming up, like next month in Rhinebeck and Würzburg. What are those?
Yeah, Würzburg. I'm doing a mural there in May, and I'm still waiting to hear from the Veterans Association for a mural in Pleasant Valley. That's not.
And are you doing one at Adrian's farm?
Adrian's farm, yes, on the roof of a barn.
Oh, fun!
That's going to be a little tricky, yeah.
And what material is the roof? Is it asphalt shingles?
No, it's metal. So I'm going to have to use oil-based sign paint.
Oh boy!
Because it sticks really.
Uh-huh.
And sign paint is actually quite good. And I learned about it because I'm a sign painter, and it's really. It's the most durable paint, really, because it's made for signs, and you want the sign to last a long time. So it has more pigment in the paint, and it's I think one of the very last few kinds of paint that still has lead in it.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And what does the lead do? Do you know the chemistry of this?
I'm not sure.
Right.
Maybe that's what makes it permanent.
Yeah. And what design is that going to be on a roof of a barn at Adrian's
farm? The roof
farm?
of a barn. Yeah, they want some of their farm animals, and they want a cow and a horse and chickens. I guess I haven't really done the design yet. They're supposed to send me photographs of their animals so I can do the mural design, but they haven't sent anything yet.
What fun! And every year, pandemics permitting, you do a huge chalk drawing for Porch Fest.
Yes.
Sort of their logo and the official year's logo in the middle of the street.
Yeah, that was fun. It's a little tricky with the logistics, but and we start really early, and you helped me 3 times, 3 years, right?
Every time you let me sit on my butt in the middle of the street with chalk, I do it.
Yeah. So that's fun. And Jeremy from the bagel store, he took a beautiful drone photograph of it. So I have a nice, round.
And last year you had to leave early because you were performing at Porch Fest as well.
Yeah. The Potown Beats.
The Potown Beats. Was it just the 2 of you, or did you have more?
No, it was just the 2 of us. Yeah, the year before we had about 5 or 6 other musicians, but this last year was just the 2 of us. This next year I might actually have a dancer to perform with me.
Oh, wow.
And it would be just me on drums, and it's 2 twin brothers, and one is a keyboard player and one is a dancer, kind of hip-hop dancer. So it would just be the 3 of us.
Love that.
Yeah.
And so are you signed up for this year's Porch Fest?
No, not yet. I just thought of this yesterday.
I love that. So do you keep your ideas somewhere? Do you have a notebook of projects you'd like to do?
Sure. Yeah.
It sounds like you're kind of an idea factory.
Yeah, I try to be. It's always good to have too many ideas.
Yeah.
Although it's not easy to kind of follow up on everything.
And are there ideas in that book, even if it's just in your mind, that you're like, I got to get to this. I really want to do this, that have been percolating long enough and you're just antsy to get to them?
It depends on what's happening. Like sometimes like a sugar daddy will pop out of nowhere, a sponsor. And so, okay, maybe I can do this idea, with this guy or this woman, It just depends what's happening, what's happening.
The sugar daddy, sort of a de Medici. I mean, somebody, an art collector with deep pockets.
Exactly.
Who wants to support that.
Yeah. And, and actually I'm excited because I'm going to be in a big group show with the Ethan Cohen Gallery.
Oh, nice. Down there in Beacon?
Well, no, in his New York gallery.
Oh.
In Chelsea.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what is that show?
It's called the Open Line. It's related to graffiti and street art.
Amazing.
So I'm going to have one of my big, actually it's a freestanding wall piece in that show.
Okay.
Yeah.
A freestanding wall piece, on the surface of the styrofoam.
Yeah, but it's 3-dimensional. It's like 7 feet high and 4 feet by 4 feet, and it's sort of like a corner of a building, and it's images on both sides.
Right. I think I've seen corners of buildings in your studio.
Yeah, you probably saw. You saw.
So similar sort of thing, but in a bigger scale.
Yeah, but I play around with it though. On the outside corner, it's contemporary street art kind of stuff. And then on the other side, I had fun, and I kind of went back to my cave painting things, and I did sort of a funky little cave painting, but I add little contemporary things, images in there. It's got some animals and but I have like a little train, or a little house or something. I add that in there but it's done in a caveman style. So
and that piece is finished?
Yeah, in fact, I just wrapped it this morning because I have to deliver it next week.
Oh, nice. And that's in May in New York City?
Yeah, I think it opens May 13th or the 19th. I'm not sure.
All right. Do you have other plugs? I'm looking at all of the stuff that's coming up for you.
I'm doing an NFT.
Oh, you are? Nice.
Yeah, in France, I met this couple that have this company called Street Lab, and they liked my Hamilton photographs, so they're going to do an NFT with those.
Well, I hope it sells for $1 billion.
Yeah, it's not quite. It's kind of nebulous still, Well,
I mean, the NFT thing hit like whenever, 3 years ago or so, and everybody asked me like, "Oh, you doing an NFT? Doing an NFT?" And so you successfully did not do any NFTs until this, or did you dabble before?
I was thinking about it, but this kind of fell in my lap, and I figured, okay, well, now or never, And they're all gung ho about it. And it's complicated. I didn't realize how complicated it is.
What makes it complicated?
Well, It's just two guys as part of this company, and I just the other day I had to send them 100 of my Hamilton shadow images, JPEGs at high res, and then also they're adding. They have to make a little video about me and my work to kind of promote the NFT.
Right.
So they've got all these images, and then they have some stills from the movie that they made about Hamilton called Shadow Man, which is a great documentary. If you see, you can see it on YouTube, about Hamilton's life. So they're using excerpts from the film, combining it with my images and interviews with me and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit involved. It's not, it's.
Well, it sounds like they're professionals.
Well,
they
yeah.
want to sell the art, and they
I'm
know
not complaining. I'm
that
just saying.
the artist often is the prime force for moving the art.
It has to be perfectly high end, high tech, high end. So, but they're doing most of the work. I don't really do all that much.
And so, what will the NFT be? Presumably, you're designing that part.
Well, no, actually, they kind of design it. It's going to be about 40 of the 100 shadow images, which I thought was a lot. I thought it was only 5 or 6, maybe. Because I've seen other artists' NFTs, and it's just a handful of images. If they want to do 40, I don't know. Maybe they have another idea that I am not familiar with.
And what's the price point going to be for your NFT?
I have no idea. They have to figure that out.
And is the typical gallery artist cut?
No, NFTs are a little different because they're not really buying an object. They're buying the rights to an image. So it's only about maybe 5% for me.
Okay.
But, it could be, if something sells for $1 million, 5% is pretty good.
Right.
Which you never know, Like that guy a couple of years ago.
Beeple crap.
Yeah. So, I mean, who would have thought that? But so it's not a high percentage, but there's nothing for me to do. I don't have to make a photograph. I don't have to frame it. I don't have to ship it anywhere.
Right.
It's out there in the
And will they sell multiples of one NFT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the edition?
I don't know yet.
Right.
I just started this.
All right.
So,
well, this weekend you've got something else going on, right? A closing party.
Yes, thank you.
Or something closer to home.
Yeah, actually, this Sunday, I'm in a 3-person show at the Green Kill Gallery in Kingston, and we're having a little closing party this Sunday evening, 4 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
And if you missed the opening or if you didn't see the show, come on out.
Sunday 4 to 6 at the Green Kill Gallery.
Yeah, it's
in Kingston.
Yeah, it's on Greenkill Avenue, 229 Greenkill Avenue, and it's in a funny part of Kingston. It's not in the 3 neighborhoods, so to speak. You have the Stockade, Midtown, and Rondown.
Right.
It's sort of the west of Midtown.
I think they call it Greenkill over there.
I guess, maybe. Yeah.
It's sort of where 32 and Pine Street, all come together.
Exactly, and 213 is.
Yeah.
213 is right in.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
It's an interesting neighborhood.
It's
of
a
Kingston.
suburban. Yeah, it's a suburban neighborhood. It's the only gallery like around it, and it's in a house. Actually, it's like in an old house.
Right.
And the owner lives upstairs.
Oh, but it's the ground floor.
Ground floor. But what's interesting about this gallery is it's not just a gallery. It's a performance space. They have music performances. Yeah, I got 5 minutes.
5 minutes. You got the note. Yeah.
Music performances, poetry, even dance. Yeah. So it's a little more interesting than a regular gallery.
Right.
And we'll have refreshments too.
You don't happen to have the address by any chance?
Yeah, 229 Greenkill Avenue.
229 Greenkill Avenue.
Yeah, April 30th, Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m.
I'm going to try and come by. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
And just looking at your resume, you won all these grants, just the most amazing grants and residencies, a Rome Prize Fellowship. What did you do? I mean, that's a residency thing, right?
Yeah, 1 year in Rome, all expenses paid.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And for your family or significant other.
Yeah, I met my wife there, and we got married in Rome too, which is
That doesn't sound romantic at all.
It doesn't happen. In fact, we're the only fellows.
Oh, she was there on a fellowship as well?
Yeah, she was there for art history. I was there for painting. And we met and got married. Yeah.
Wow.
Kinda weird. Yeah, we got married in the Capitol Line Museum too.
In the what?
Capitol Line Museum. It's one of the beautiful museums in Rome. We didn't get married in a church.
That's spectacular.
Yes.
And so was it very helpful to you to have that year there? I mean, were you super productive?
Yeah, I made a lot of work because I had all the time. You know, I mean, you're just there for a year.
And it's like an apartment, a studio.
Yeah, I had an apartment and
food.
My studio was huge, 30 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet, in a big palazzo. You know, it was just
amazing.
Yeah. It's probably the best grant or fellowship anybody could ever get.
Right.
It's most grants are great, but here's a check and you know, good luck. No, this was like you're part of this community and you're called a fellow.
Right.
And when you're there, the most amazing people walk through there, like Frank Gehry, the architect, Laurie Anderson's having coffee in the cafe. It's that kind of a place.
And what did you send them as the art that you used to apply for this? What did they see that made them think, we want this guy?
My walls.
Wow.
My urban walls.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I saw those for the first time a few years ago, and I thought, oh, this is a new thing that Frank's into.
Yeah.
But you've been doing them for a long time.
Yeah, and because when you apply for the Rome Prize, you have to have a specific project. You can't just say,
okay.
I want to be in Rome for a year. That's not enough. So I proposed to do frescoes, fresco walls, but not traditional fresco. My frescoes are kind of mixed media. I paint into dry plaster rather than the wet plaster.
Okay.
And then I also add other things, gravel and found objects and paper, and so it's a little different take on a fresco, but they look like
in as much as it's not fresh plaster,
right? And then the styrofoam made them really different. So
right,
that's I guess that's how they selected me.
What a blast! And when was that?
That was the mid '80s. Yeah,
just amazing. Spectacular. You also won a Lewis Comfort Tiffany grant. What is that all about?
Oh, that's a nice grant. That was 1984. That was $12,000. In today's money, that's what is that? 40,000 or something like that. I think it's 50,000 now.
What's that?
It's 50,000 now, I think.
Wow.
That grant, yeah.
And what is that for?
It's you have to be recommended by somebody. I was recommended by the director of the Newark Museum because he knew my work and I had shown there a few times. So he recommended me, and and I got it. So. And same thing with the urban walls, the wall works.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
And a Franklin Furnace residency?
Yeah, because I've been making artist books also for a long time. And not so much lately, but in the 80s and 90s, I was making a lot of artist books. Artist books are not like regular books. They're usually one of a kind or a small edition.
The Franklin Furnace, you used to have a huge repository for artist books. It used to be
just a book gallery for artist books, but now it's more performance and music and that kind of thing.
Right. Well, is there some medium, some form of art that you've not yet tried that you would really like to?
Glass blowing.
Glass blowing. Good. Can't wait to see it. And now we got to sign off. Franc Palaia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
on
Norm.
Correct Me If I'm Norm. Everybody have a fabulous Friday evening. Stay tuned to hear me getting interviewed in 60 seconds.
Oh, okay.